Huey Newton once said, "Children are the future, and the future looks pretty bleak without proper nourishment." In this video, we'll see how the Black Panther Party turned this belief into action and facilitated the development of the National School Breakfast Program. To fully appreciate the ambitious nature of the Black Panther Party's free breakfast program, you have to understand the historical context in which it was founded. The late 1960s presented a number of challenges for the black community in Oakland and indeed across the United States. The economic disparities between black and white communities at the time was profound. Many African Americans lived in inner cities that suffered from urban decay, with inadequate housing, poor sanitation, and limited access to essential services. Schools in African American neighborhoods were often underfunded and overcrowded, contributing to a cycle of poverty and limited opportunities and reinforcing the high unemployment rates, low wages, and lack of access to quality jobs in black communities. Grocery stores in black neighborhoods often lacked access to fresh produce and healthy food options, creating food deserts and leading to poor nutrition and widespread health problems, including malnutrition, stunted growth in children, and higher rates of diseases like diabetes and hypertension. And to cap it all off, there was a widespread perception that the government had failed, either willingly or through incompetence, to address the challenges facing these communities. Indeed, systemic racism and neglect by government agencies meant that African American communities were frequently overlooked or deliberately marginalized in policy decisions. In this context, Huey Newton and Bobby Seale founded the Black Panther Party and outlined its demands and goals for social justice and equality in a 10-point program. That program, which served as the foundation for their platform, called for the right of African Americans to determine their own destiny and the end of exploitation, guaranteed employment or a guaranteed income for all, universal access to housing fit for sheltering human beings, an education that exposes the true nature of American society and teaches African American history, an end to the drafting of African Americans into military service, an immediate cessation of police brutality and murder of African Americans, fair trials for all African Americans with juries of their peers, the immediate release of all African Americans in prison for fighting for their rights, a demand for land, bread, housing, education, clothing, justice, and peace, and fundamental changes in the American political and economic systems to achieve justice and peace. The party recognized that achieving these broad goals required immediate, tangible actions to address the daily needs of black communities. To that end, they implemented several community-based programs to directly address issues of poverty, hunger, and health, aligning these efforts with their broader mission of empowerment and systemic change. They established community health clinics that aimed to provide free medical care and health education to underserved African American communities. These clinics provided basic medical care and screenings for common health issues including sickle cell anemia, as well as immunizations and vaccinations, and health education on topics like nutrition, hygiene, and disease prevention. And they provided referrals to specialized medical services when necessary. These clinics helped address significant health disparities and fostered a sense of self-reliance and community solidarity. They also exposed systemic neglect in healthcare, pushing for broader reform. But for our purposes, it was the school breakfast program that is of greatest interest. That program aimed to combat food insecurity and ensure children started their day with a nutritious meal. Volunteers prepared and served breakfast in community centers and churches, and meals were free and open to all children, regardless of the family's economic situation. The program was funded through donations from local businesses, churches, and supporters, as well as through the party's own fundraising efforts. While the program started in Oakland, it eventually expanded to more than 36 cities, serving an estimated 20,000 children daily until it was ended in 1980. The breakfast program had immediate benefits. It led to improved school attendance, higher academic performance, and improvements in overall child health. The program also highlighted the Black Panther Party's commitment to practical, everyday support for their communities and demonstrated the scalability and effectiveness of community-driven solutions. An editorial in the Black Panther Party newspaper published in April 1969 and titled "To Feed Our Children" described the breakfast program in the following terms. The free breakfast for school children is about to cover the country and to be initiated in every chapter and branch of the Black Panther Party. The program was created because the Black Panther Party understands that our children need a nourishing breakfast every morning so they can learn. These breakfasts include every nutrient that they need for the day. For too long, our people have gone hungry and without proper health aids they need. But the Black Panther Party says that this type of thing must be halted because we must survive this evil government and build a new one fit for the service of all the people. This program is run through donations of concerned people and the avaricious businessmen that pinch selfishly a little to the program. We say that this is not enough, especially from those that thrive off the black community like leeches. All those avaricious businessmen have their factories, etc., centered in our communities, and even most of the people that work in these sweatshops are members of the oppressed masses. It is a beautiful sight to see our children eat in the mornings after remembering the times when our stomachs were not full. And even the teachers in the schools say that there is a great improvement in the academic skills of the children that do get the breakfast. At one time, there were children that passed out in the class from hunger or had to be sent home for something to eat. But our children shall be fed, and the Black Panther Party will not let the malady of hunger keep our children down any longer. But our children shall be fed, and the Black Panther Party will not let the malady of hunger keep our children down any longer. Hunger is one of the means of oppression, and it must be halted. Power to the people. The so-called survival programs, which included the community medical clinics and the school breakfast program, among others, were thus part of a broader mission of the Black Panther Party, emphasizing community empowerment and self-reliance. By addressing basic needs like health and nutrition, the party aimed to empower African Americans to take control of their lives and communities. These programs exposed the failure of government systems to provide for African Americans, strengthening the case for broader political and economic reform. Through direct action and community engagement, the party fostered a sense of unity and collective strength among African Americans, which they viewed as essential for their broader struggle for social justice and equality. And they believed that these successful community programs would help shift public perception of the party from being solely a militant group to being a multifaceted organization dedicated to social welfare and justice. Community programs also served as a way to attract new members and educate them about the Black Panther Party's ideology and goals, creating a space for political organizing and community building. The Black Panther Party's free breakfast program ended due to a variety of factors. Financial constraints and internal divisions within the party made the program difficult to sustain internally. And as the party faced increasing scrutiny and repression, securing funds and support became more challenging. Further, as the political landscape shifted in the late 1970s and early 1980s, the BPP's focus shifted towards electoral politics and community organizing, which required different resources and strategies. But perhaps the most important factor was the FBI's counterintelligence program, or COINTELPRO, which actively targeted and worked to disrupt the activities of the Black Panther Party. Indeed, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover described the program as the best and most influential activity going for the BPP, and as such is potentially the greatest threat to efforts by authorities to neutralize the BPP and destroy what it stands for. Law enforcement thus worked actively to end the program. In cities like Richmond, Virginia, FBI agents went door to door telling parents that the Black Panther Party was teaching their children racism. In San Francisco, parents were told that the food was infected with venereal diseases. In Chicago, law enforcement officials broke into the church being used to serve meals, smashed up and urinated on the food to prevent its use. Kitchens in Oakland and Baltimore were raided by officers. Elsewhere, law enforcement officials spread rumors that the food was poisoned. And more broadly, COINTELPRO worked to disrupt the Black Panther Party, surveilling, arresting, and imprisoning its leaders, spreading misinformation about its activities, and, according to a report conducted by the U.S. Senate, harassing, wrongfully imprisoning, and even assassinating its members. Ironically, though, despite the efforts of the COINTEL program to destroy it, the Black Panther Party's free breakfast program would increase pressure on state and federal governments to expand their own services. In California, the success of the program pushed then-Governor Ronald Reagan to create a statewide free breakfast program. At the federal level, the government gradually expanded a pilot breakfast program over time, making it permanent in 1975. Today, that federal program feeds more than 15 million children every day, and absent the efforts of the Black Panthers, it may never have been created. That's it for now. Please leave any questions you have in the comments section below, and thanks for watching.